Richards trying to scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease.
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Street Bullies podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, brother?
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Hoagie.
What's not to love?
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Street Bullies. My name is Derek, and that silence means that John Gove isn't here.
It's a Goveless Monday.
Just another Goveless Monday.
Hoagie just is relishing in this.
I was so excited this morning.
Next to your bachelor party, this has got to be the most excited you've ever been. It's like,
absolutely.
The guy who passive aggressive bullies me every Monday is not here.
He's going to listen to this and be like, I can just see like the red in his face right now.
There'll be shots on
Twitter
tomorrow.
I'm on spring break. What do you guys expect?
Yeah, well, anyways, you'll have to excuse me because you'll probably hear my child screaming as my wife attempts to put him to bed. But regardless, there's reason to scream for joy, obviously. Dave Scott now has retired, and we're going to get to that here in a little bit. There's also an entry-level contract that's been signed, as well as some prospect action here in the Frozen Four. And general speak about the team doing pretty decent right now. So I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce, obviously, the Matts here. Matt Hogan.
Whoa.
Matt Hoagland, also known as Hoagie. Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
Gentlemen.
Yes. Hoagie, a.k.a.
The one and only. Because John's not here.
I would say it's just a miracle that Hoagie finally got 5G internet. That's a minor miracle.
He's more clear than the rest of us. I love it.
Right?
That baby face.
Nice, beautiful picture.
Beautiful son of a bitch. You.
better than Derek's wind-up Apple IIe.
I'll be cranking it here halfway through the show just to keep it going. But Matt Casey.
Hey guys, guess what? Our lights went off a couple minutes ago, we may be getting I may be hopping off for a minute here.
Might be getting spicy tonight, huh?
You've heard of Flyers After Dark. Welcome to Street Bullies After Dark.
Yeah. we had a nice big thunderstrike, and the kids were like, yeah.
I'm scared. Like, get over it, you weenies.
By the way, my youngest, sorry, not to digress too much. My youngest, who's 4.5, he walks by me these days and just flips me in the nuts and goes, weenie. And I'm like, dude.
Whoa.
Oh.
Anyway, speaking of weenies,
here's an interesting question. Would you rather that, or would you rather your child spit in your face like mine does?
Oh, God.
I saw you.
He's got me in the nuts a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, he's gotten me accidentally in the nuts. He doesn't try that just yet, but I'm gonna nip that one in the bud. But yeah, the latest thing is like the slaps across the faces. We're trying to go to bed, the spitting, and I'm like,
perfect.
I do not condone beating your child, but
now I know why they've created military schools. Yes,
right.
Yeah.
Now I know why some people do. Like, all jokes aside, keyword being joke, we get to Dave Scott. Dave Scott retiring as the CEO of Comcast and relinquishing his title with the Flyers as well. A day that a lot of us here were waiting on, let's be honest. Ever since Chuck Fletcher being fired, the writing was kind of on the wall here. So general thoughts in terms of this move, the timing of it, all together wrapped up into one. Shoot.
I'll go first. I think it's a great sign. I don't care if they call it a retirement. I don't care if it's legit or not. I think it's a great sign that the organization as a whole recognizes that a new direction needs to be forged. And I think everybody wants the result, but didn't, the Chuck Fletcher and Dave Scott. And I'm not saying it's all their fault. Like there was some stuff in there that was probably out of their control. But the reality is, as the leaders of the organization, they are at fault. You know, you're only as good. You know, the buck stops with them, and both of them are gone. And everything I heard about Hilferty Daniel is that he he helped with the bid for the World Cup to Philadelphia. Yep. Like he was Blue Cross Blue Shield or one of those he's not coming out of, he's not coming out of like seasoned. He's not coming out of like, you know, a little mom and pop shop in Des Moines or anything like that. Like he's sounds like he's a legit guy. And, you know, I just think overall I feel optimism. I feel optimism that it wasn't just Chuck that was let go. I feel optimism that Dave Scott is gone and you know, hopefully better days are ahead.
Mm-hmm. Hoagie too. You feeling that same way?
Yeah, I just think, you know, the dominoes are starting to fall. Casey kind of hinted towards it. I kind of am wondering if it was like a force out versus like a retirement, but we're just being told retirement as, you know, PC as it gets. But regardless, it's a good sign. Dominoes are falling. I'm hoping there's more to come with some people. But
like Coatsy? Oh wait, he's out too.
He's out too. I love it.
Like they asked him.
What you get for speaking up at the ticket holders meeting? Get out.
No, I'm
so
actually
keep your mouth shut.
I'm actually kind of excited for Hilferty. He's kind of like he's not Philly born and bred. He grew up down the shore, so like, you know, that's exciting. He went to St. Joe's. He knows the area. He helped with the FIFA World Cup bid. He obviously cares about Philadelphia and wants a winning culture. And he said that. He's like, our next step, I know it's going to take a while, but is bringing this team back to being a competitive hockey team and competing for the Stanley Cup, which I know everybody's going to say that when hired, but still, he wants that back from Philadelphia.
That's the one encouraging thing I think I keep reading about Hilferty is that he is a Philly guy through and through. He wants this team to be successful, not just the city, but the Flyers too. So wanting, and I mean, obviously any GM you put in this position, their job hinges on this team being successful. That's why Chuck Fletcher's gone. Any president, that's why Dave Scott's gone. So fresh blood, I think you bring in a guy that, you know, knows how to run a successful company and run it well. So that's a good step in the right direction for me. You know, Matt Casey kind of hit the nail on the head there. I'm feeling a little optimistic, and I think it's just that breath of fresh air. I'm not necessarily, I don't know enough about Hilferty to be like, yeah, you know, I'm confident in his abilities. No, I'm just
a Hilferty guy through and through.
Hilferty guy, right? Hilferty 2024.
Oh boy.
But, you know, I'm just optimistic because it is a breath of fresh air. It's new blood in there. It's somebody that we've heard some good stuff about in terms of his outlook for this team and, you know, being a fan, really. And when you're a fan, you want the team to be successful that you root for. And that's, I think, one of the biggest positives that we can draw from this. The timing of it and the way it kind of happened when – so I guess I was listening to Snow the Goalie, and they were mentioning about how I think it was when Fletcher was fired, it wasn't like a big press conference. It wasn't, you know, all this and that. The pomp and circumstance, I guess I should say, it was a press release that was sent directly to the Philly Inquirer.
Right.
And just, I don't know, like maybe it's me, I don't know, but how does that sit with you guys?
What in terms of I think they knew what was the benefit of doing like a big to-do press conference with Fletcher up there and Dave Scott. I mean, they obviously knew that Scott was gonna be, you know, moved. Like you don't hire a new CEO of Comcast and expect Dave Scott to stand pat.
Yep.
I don't, you know, from a timing standpoint.
And that's not what I'm asking though. I was asking in terms of like having like Dave Scott hold a press conference after letting Chuck Fletcher go. You know what I mean? I guess I should have been more clear about that.
You're asking why did they do it?
Or why didn't they?
Why didn't they? Because I think he was a lame duck. And then now that we know that he was a lame duck. And so I think that them not having that in there was definitely just another sort of you know, clue in our you know, search for the truth here of yeah, his days were numbered as well. He probably hasn't been showing up at the office for, for 4 months or something like that. I think the Flyers did Fletcher a huge favor in letting him go before this carnival that happened yesterday. Can you imagine if Fletcher had to walk the floor of that carnival? Like,
Boy.
just like, dude, just sit in the duck tank and hold your breath as long as you can.
Dead man walking, just walking around like, hey, Chuck, why don't you come play cornhole with the boys? No thanks, guys. I gotta clean out my office.
What are you reading into that? Are you reading something different into that, Derek?
Not necessarily. I think I just wanted viewpoints in terms of what you guys think. Like, I mean, you think more of the same, Hoagie?
Yeah, I'm trying to think back. Like, did we hold a press conference when Hextall got released?
Hextall held his own press conference at a hotel across the street.
It's amazing.
Right? But power move.
Yeah,
it's
absolute
like
power
Trump
move.
going to the Scots lawn care.
Right.
Oh my God, you're right. Oh my God, you're right. Total power. He's like, listen, I did nothing wrong. I've stocked these cupboards. I traded for draft picks.
Oh,
right.
No.
I think when someone's leaving, especially when a GM is let go, not having a press conference, I don't think is a huge deal. Because, like, what's there to say? It's like, why did you fire him? It's like, deduct your own conclusions there. Like,
right.
The team hasn't made the playoffs for 3 years. It doesn't, the things were not looking good until recently. But
it was obvious why.
Yeah, there was an obvious why. With Dave Scott, like, I don't care if there's a press conference or not. It's like, all right, you're on your way out. They didn't have a press conference today, right? I don't think.
No, not to my knowledge.
I think it was just released by multiple people all at once.
I just feel like it's a little bit of like a mercy killing. It's like, they go, we're not going to slander your name. We're not going to let the press go to town. And you just, like, slowly back out into, retirement, enjoy your boat, enjoy golf, enjoy, doing all those things.
And it is a really, like, slow transition because it's like April 17th is when Hilferty becomes chairman, and then July 1st he becomes governor. So, like, it is a nice slow transition where, like, Scott can kind of show him whatever ropes he has to pull and just let him take the reins from there.
Right. And I think that combined with, the reports that we saw from multiple sources that, the advisors were not consulted when Chuck, when Chuck was let go. Like, it was clear that whole regime is lame ducked out. And I think, we can all agree that, okay, whether or not it's the right direction or the one that brings us back to prominence, we don't know, but it's another direction. Yeah. We know the one that we're going down now is not the right direction. So, there's only so many other paths that we can choose. And look, I've been cautiously optimistic in terms of, while no moves have actually been made, at the very least, there's no longer a sense of, like, what the hell did you do to our team? It's now like, okay, how do we fix this thing?
Yeah. What the hell can we do for this team?
Yeah. Right. Now, typically you'll see, like, when a GM gets fired, a new one gets hired, he brings in his own staff, things like that. So we're accustomed to seeing that the way Hextall did with Hextall, the way they did it with Vigneault and Fletcher, kind of to an extent. Are you at all concerned about, like, this basically a step above? Now you're looking at the president who's new, and then you have a new GM, presumably if Briere sheds the interim tag. Like, is it concerning at all from a higher level as opposed to a GM coach? Now you're looking at president and GM.
Hoagie, you want to go first on this one? No.
Let me process that one a little bit.
All right. I'm going to say no, and I alluded to this last week. I think for better or for worse, we started this rebuild a year ago. And, with the Giroux trade and the significance of that, and, getting Owen Tippett back was a great thing. But, like, just in my mind, last, whatever it was, February or March, that was the start of the transition. Now, traditionally, what you do is, like, oh, you have a GM and they come in and bring a coach, and the coach brings their guys. We just did it ass backwards. We said, hey, we're going to bring a coach in. And I think we're all probably in agreement that the coach is the right guy at this time for the Flyers. Whether that remains the same in 3 years, I don't know. But I like what Torts has done here. Now, I don't think that you can reverse that in saying, hey, Torts, all that great work, all that stuff that you squoze out, guess what? You're going to now have like 3 new bosses above you that you don't know who had nothing to go in there. So, like, if you think about the transition of it, Danny, so let's assume that Danny gets the interim tag taken off. Danny was instrumental in the hiring of Torts and that process. It's clear that they have respect for each other. It's clear that, at least in my mind, it's clear that Danny doesn't seem to be a pushover that Torts wants to bully over, nor do I think Torts is actually that guy who wants to like bully over a GM. He wants to work with them. He wants to bet. Ultimately, you have the goal of winning games, and you have to work together to do it. Now, I think where the big step needs to happen is, what do they call it? The president of hockey operations.
That's the next domino.
That's the vacant role.
Hired.
So that's the one where that serves as the liaison between Briere and
ownership
and Comcast. And so, I think that's where Hilfert T. Daniel will have a like huge say, obviously, on who that is going to be. I don't. Does Briere reports into that, or are they?
I think they're technically supposed to work hand in hand.
So they're a flat structure there, but I would assume that Briere is going to have a say in that. I assume that Torts would probably have an interview. I don't know how much of a real say, but like he might need to. I
think he should.
It's probably a panel at that point with everybody that should have a say has a say.
Yeah, well, I think that's where. We just did this. We did it in a totally backwards way.
Yeah.
It still might work, but like it's not the traditional way that you go to a business school and be like, here is how you restructure a company. And like we just did it like, this looks like it makes sense here. We're gonna do this one. So
I think you're gonna see a really interesting dynamic between Briere and Tortorella, because there's going to be a fine line between letting Tortorella have his say and letting him have too much say, I guess, if that makes any sense. Briere can't be a pushover is the best way to put it. Like, you want a GM who's going to stand firm in the direction he believes this team needs to go, but also making sure that your head coach has enough say, because he's the guy that's icing these guys. He's icing his team, and it's a matter of what he sees on the ice. Because if he's going to go to Briere and say, listen, Max Woolman's not cutting it up here, he needs to go back down to the AHL. Briere needs to understand that and have the bean counters make that move,
Yeah.
Which is presumably what he did earlier this season.
Hayden Hodgson, he's our guy.
Hayden, that's what
he's not. No, he's not.
Who's he? Is he playing for the Royals again, or is he still with the Phantoms?
Couldn't tell.
Poor guy. Like, good for him. Good story, but man, Jesus.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if you look at it in a nutshell, like, we were all about like the press in the last couple of years. It's like, Keith Yandel is gonna break his streak with the Flyers, and we were like, "This guy is awful.
He shouldn't be doing anything."
Claude Giroux, it's his 1,000th game. Like, that's great. We're happy
He's
for him.
Being traded. It's just dark cloud over his 1,000th game.
So again, I think we just go back to the optimism that this brings out. I think I'll throw a hypothetical out to you guys, which is, what if Briere doesn't get the job? I think that throws a big.
That's a huge wrench.
Yeah.
Who do they go after at that point? I mean, who's on the market?
I mean, you got to have a grand slam. And I don't even know who that would be. I don't.
There's been names like Pronger and somebody else. Eddie Olczyk was thrown in there.
People are saying they want him to go get Dubas.
They're saying Dubas for president of hockey ops,
which I'd be fine with.
Yeah, I'd be fine with as well. But I think Briere is perfect, because I think with him and Tortorella, they're not too old school hockey, but they still have a grasp on like the way that the game is moving. Towards in a way, he's catching up. He's not getting furious about the Michigans and what have you.
To his credit, he's adjusted pretty well, like as he's gotten older.
He has, but I think him, and with Briere not being so far out from the game, I think they're just going to be able to take this team to be like, all right, well, that side of the game's kind of out. Let's bring newer and more mentally shaped guys that understand the game and can play it very fast and very well.
Mhm.
So I think they're going to work very well together. I just don't see Briere not getting this job, to be
This
honest.
comparison may not work. What's the movie with Sean Penn where he's got a daughter?
Milk.
Yeah, like help, like Danny Briere. I can see Danny Briere is like helping Tortorella along. It's like, this is how the game is now, John. Like,
I was gonna go with Fast Times at Ridgemont High, but
There you go.
Oh, boy.
you see Tortorella sitting there hitting his head with his shoe. That's my skull. No, I'll be really bummed, and they would need to pull like Iserman out of Detroit, which would never happen for
Right.
people to be like, oh, okay, like I get it.
Yeah,
Like,
that is my dream. That is
like
my dream.
that would be the level of hire in my mind that they would have to make in order for this to go. And like, I think they're creating something that's a little bit better. There was an article I was reading in the Inquirer today, which I don't read in general that much, but I don't read I don't read the Inquirer, and I certainly don't read Mike Sealski very much. But I was just reading through some of the
weasel.
Yeah, the weasel himself. But he had kind of a decent analysis of like this old regime. They're like, these fans, these hardcore Philadelphia Flyer hockey fans, they don't need somebody banging a drum telling them to get ready for hockey. They don't need a mascot. They don't need somebody to like. They're like, just go out there and you freaking win games. That's how you get the fan base done.
Go out there and find those fucking wins.
Right.
It's the dance team. It's they've enacted so much. Yeah, pomp and circumstance is such a great phrase for it, because before the Wachovia, the Wells Fargo, what have you, it was always packed, night in, night out. It was packed.
Yep.
Snowing, rain, hail, whatever, packed.
Right.
Like, these people breathe for Flyers hockey, and like, there's a lot of people that are like, I don't want to show
They're
up to
going
games
the
anymore.
family route at this point. Like, Gritty was a big ploy because it's like, oh, we've got a mascot now. Kids are gonna love it. And now they're like, oh, we bang this cool drum before the game. We have a dance team. Like, the only attraction growing up I can remember at these games was the Ice Girls. Like the girls,
and they took that away.
That's it. Yeah, and they took
they took most of them away.
Yeah,
wow.
Like they don't.
It's more of a dance. It's not really the dance squad, but like they don't do much.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that to be like a I like girls, like a meathead a-hole, but like that was the only thing you could consider like a quote unquote attraction at that point, because you didn't have Gritty, you didn't have a dance team, you didn't have all like the drum lines and stuff that play like you see at Vegas and crap like that. There was no like, come see this like while you're at the hockey game. Like, no, it was come watch the Flyers play hockey. That's what it was. That's what it should be. And that's what I miss the most.
All you needed to hear was Lou Nolan, "Are you ready for some hockey?"
Right.
And that just it puts shivers on my skin right now. And so I'm not Lou Nolan.
Not to totally age myself here, but like, I grew up going to games at the Spectrum. Like that's where like I went, and like when I finally moved back to the area, when I went to Franklin and Marshall, I was like, oh wow, what is this giant freaking arena that's here? Like, what is this thing? But like I remember like, and they still do it to an extent, but it's like there was no drums, there was no Gritty. It was like you had mites on ice and you had a friggin' t-shirt cannon, and that was the extent of
the cannon's gone.
The blimp that dropped coupons and stuff, right? Oh, I used to love that thing in between periods.
And it's not to say that I look at it too, where I'm all for a family environment, especially being a dad. But the irony is we had 2 matinee home games this year, and one was last week, the other one was like. What the Black Friday one, which was a debacle.
It's like a 4 or 5 o'clock game.
But like I haven't been able to bring my kids to a game because we have 0 matinee games. And so if you want to have a family environment, that's fine. Have more 3 o'clock weekend starts. Like actually play into it. I was like this close to trying to go last weekend, but like we just. My kid had like a birthday party.
I like dread the day I have to take my kid to a game. Like he's really starting to understand. Like I'll come home from work at like 5:30 some nights, and I'm like, buddy, like guess what's on tonight? He goes, Flyers, and I'm like, I like that excitement in his eyes. And he like, I ask him who his favorite Flyer is, and he's like Carter Hart, and I'm like, this is fantastic. But now it's like I'm gonna take him to the ice arena. He's gonna see Gritty, and he's gonna be like, oh my god. And I'm like, oh, there it goes.
Well, that was like
Let's hope-
John this past weekend.
Yeah, John was
yeah.
at the game this
His
weekend.
his youngest just wanted to see Gritty, get
Yeah.
a Mickey, and get the fuck out. Right?
Kudos to his oldest who wanted to go to watch the game. Like,
Right,
that's awesome. I mean, he's doing something right, But
For
I'll
once.
play street hockey with my boys, and they always make me the Sharks because I'm like, who's a team I don't really hate? It's like the Sharks. Like, what do they have? It's like the Sharks and like Dallas. Like I have nothing against Dallas.
back in like the early 2000s, this is a great rivalry.
But my boys are all they're like, where are the Flyers? He's like, I'm Travis Konecny. And they're like, he's like, is Travis Konecny playing now? I'm like, no, he's still hurt. Like, they're
What about
starting
Paul
to get it.
Giroux
They love it.
traded? How about
Yeah.
Jake Voracek traded? Like,
Yeah.
well, hold on. What about Nick Grossman gone? Like, it's tough to get amped up for these games when there's just so much going on aside from the actual on ice product. And I get it because it caters to a different fan base, a different segment of the fan base is the best way to put it. But if you're going to cater to kids aren't paying for the tickets.
Right.
It's the parents that are paying for the tickets. I feel like it's a stupid, I shouldn't say stupid, but
Yeah,
it's flawed.
I think to bring it back to the original conversation, I'm hoping what they have is a good mix of like, hey, we understand it needs to be a family thing. It can't be like the crusty hot dogs and stale pretzels and stuff. Like it needs to be a family environment. You need to have something for the young guys that are there drinking, having a good time. You need to have something for families. You need to have something for the hardcore fans, which is really like get to your seat, put your headphones on like a psycho and listen to the radio. Listen to the play-by-play on your headphones.
Oh boy.
Again, back in the day at the Spectrum, there was this old woman who would her name was Rose. She would hex the goalie, hex the opposing goalie, and then she would put her headphones in and listen to the game while it was going on, which is bananas.
Yeah, that's a psycho right there. Like that's psychotic behavior.
And by the way, she wasn't there she had one single ticket. It's like, wow, you are a legend.
Right.
I know somebody like that.
I'm hoping that they find that good mix there because there is a new generation of fans. But I think you've seen anything with Philly in the last year that what gets people excited? Winning.
Yeah.
That gets people going. And it does obviously not even winning championships, but like just the
Win
journey
games.
to get there.
There's nothing like going and celebrating a win. Like
Right.
I can tell you one of the best moments I think I might have ever had, and this is just because I got to share it with my mom, was that we were at the game. Claude Giroux scored that overtime goal against Chicago in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Oh, really?
The walk out, like when everybody's just in a fantastic mood. You're high-fiving strangers on the escalator. Like it's just there's nothing like that. There's absolutely nothing like that feeling you get when a big goal in a big game and everybody's walking out happy, and you can curse at the Blackhawk fans on the way out and tell them F off, go home, have fun driving to Chicago.
Your pizza sucks.
Right? Like Patrick Kane did it and you know it,
Right.
Like you love heckling them. But that's what I want to get back to. Like too many times now, I think last year was the last game I went to, the Rangers game, much like the one this past year. We're outnumbered. Like you're looking at 2/3 Rangers fans, as opposed to like, Christ, man. And I don't mean to sensationalize it, but Ed Snyder would be rolling over in his goddamn grave.
He is.
Yeah, like he's got to be. That's just, it's embarrassing.
He's kicking out.
He's trying to get out.
Here, like, but Christ, man, it's just, I don't know. And I'm hoping Hilferty has a good idea as to how they're going to get back to the way things were when we weren't outnumbered by Rangers fans, those jack-offs.
Well,
It's just we just don't need the smoke screen. Just give us the product. You know?
Well, speaking of winning games, we've been doing that lately.
Yeah. Are we pissed about it?
So, I mean, to recap, we've won 4 of the last 5, and we have points in 5 in the last 5.
Points in 5. We're 4-0-1.
Okay, and that one game that was the 0.03 second.
That was the 5-4 loss to Carolina. Yep.
So I think the question is overall, I saw this yesterday, and we've seen it all year. It's like, how are they do? They can't even tank right. They're getting worse odds at Bedard. It's like, okay, so by that rationale, what you're saying is that you should flush an entire team's structure, effort, And the fact that they are actually a young core, we're not talking about, TK's not playing. What's his name?
Sean Couturier.
Couturier's not playing.
Atkinson's not
Atkinson's
playing.
not playing. Hayes is invisible.
Hayes is not there.
Van Riemsdyk's, he's making a couple plays here and there. I'll give him that, but like not a $7 million player. That's for sure.
It's
the young guys. It's the young guys that are doing it, and they're like, you know what? Let's take control. It's not like they're doing this against Columbus or Montreal tomorrow night, and who knows? Montreal might kick the crap out of us again.
They
tomorrow
did
night.
once, yeah.
Right.
They're doing it against teams that are in the hunt or in the playoffs, and so you know what? I think it's great. I think I would rather sacrifice, a 1% chance or a 2% chance of getting the number one pick, the one guy who can flip a franchise around very quickly, in order to make the structure and the core and the standard. I hate using that because it's so cliche, but like the standard of the actual team, play the way they're playing, because that's going to pay dividends next year, the start of next year. We don't have a bunch of guys who are like not sure if they're NHLers. We have NHLers. We now have confirmed a Tyson Forster who he's down. I'm pissed. And I understand why they're doing it, but I want to see more of him. I want to see how much more he can do. By the way, comment still stands. Like his shot, like when they do his little mug shot at the at the bottom of the screen. I'm like, oh,
he's a baby.
He looks like a guy with a shark tooth necklace. He's such a bro.
It's his stint up with the Flyers was incredibly encouraging. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, I said it. Everybody did. I think everybody was excited for him. I was high and thought he'd be a breakout player. I wouldn't necessarily classify what he did as a full breakout, but we absolutely saw glimpses of a pretty damn good player right there. So
that Fleury goal was next level. That was awesome.
Yeah, he has a wicked shot.
Wicked
pissa. It was beautiful.
The knock on him is his skating, right? Is that
that's the knock on everybody? It was the
right?
knock
That's
on
the knock
Brink,
on it. I don't think he looked out of place at all.
No.
Now, maybe I didn't see all that.
High energy, getting to the boards, battling along them.
He's got a little bit of dog in him. It's good.
He kind of reminds me of Farabee, like when Farabee broke into the league. He's got that little bit of a mean streak to him.
Yeah,
and he's got that scoring touch, man. And he's got he's got a great shot. Yeah. I think he could be better. I think he could be much better than Farabee. Not a knock on Farabee by any means, but I think Forrester just has it, man. I really do.
I would like him to gain a little bit more weight, like 15, 20 pounds, because he went into the corner with somebody. I forget which game. I think it was maybe the Minnesota game. Late,
just see Reeves plastering.
No, maybe it was the Florida. It was the Florida game, maybe. And he went into the corner with somebody and just got completely knocked off the puck. And I was like, if he had a little bit more on him, he could have made a play or something. But I like what he brings to the team. And obviously, he was up here proving that he wants to be on this team next year. And in my eyes, he's earned that spot.
100%.
7 points in 8 games. That's listen. It's not freaking phenomenal, but it's a great stint.
Right. I think the other thing is when people complained a ton when Cam York was sent down at the beginning of the year, saying, "Why are we playing the young guy? Why are we playing Braun? Why isn't York up here?" And the simple comment that Tortorella said was, he's got to earn it. He still needs to earn it to come up here. And I think that probably rubbed people the wrong way. But you know what Torts has done is his word is legit. He actually has credibility in this organization, and at least with me as a fan, he has credibility. So when you hear him up there saying, "Hey, you know what? He played very well.
Carries weight.
Played very well. He's saying that Hart's playing very well. He was very high on Urson. That gives me optimism. Then when you hear, we're gonna have some addition by subtractions, you're like, JVR, hey,
Provorov or Sanheim,
maybe Provorov, maybe Sanheim. I don't know. I think Provorov's probably gone. I don't know. I feel like I feel like I trust his word much more than I trust anyone else's, especially someone like Chuck who was trying to hammer Max Willman and Hayden Hodgson down our throats. You know,
Like those are the two guys you're gonna stake your job on. Like, come on, buddy.
right? You're gonna die on the Hodgson Hill. Come on,
Right. Like, come on. No, it does. It absolutely carries weight when he speaks so highly of these guys like Forrester and like York too. Like, you're going to send him back down, make him earn it. I mean, and at the end of the day, that did wonders. I think, he really, I think he took that in the most positive way that he possibly could have and made sure that he could spin that and say, okay, here's what I'm going to work on. I'm going to get better. I'm going to get back up there and I'm going to take care of business. And that's exactly what he did.
I think you look at too, it's a smaller sample size, but Zamula, I actually think held his own in the couple games that he was there. And I think the one thing that I really noticed, I know he had a couple assists here and there and stuff like that, but like I actually just noticed his kind of like calmness and poise with the puck. Like he was just making some simple plays instead of like, flailing like JoJo the Circus Indian boy, under pressure. And so I think that was positive. I still don't know if I'm sold on him. I don't know. I feel like we got to like, put cheesesteaks in a blender and stuff it down this kid's throat to get him to gain weight. But, that was encouraging. And then the other thing I'll say is that Farabee finally looking like Farabee. And I'm not going to say any of his goals are spectacular because like it went off his shit. It went off his butt. Like, you know what? But you know what?
But those are the types of goals that you need to get back on track. And I'm super excited because I know it's a terrible time for him to get back on track because we're not playing for anything right now. But like, it's a good time for him to work on that confidence throughout the offseason and go into camp with a clear mind. I think he's been one of my favorite players just to watch because he's going to the right places. He's getting to the net. He's making the right plays, and I'm sure that's making Torts very happy.
Yeah. I'd argue there's never a bad time for that though. Like for the majority of the season, he struggled, and everybody that has a podcast, anybody that has any type of pedestal they can stand on and scream from the mountains knew about it and was talking about it. So you're right, Hoagie. I think it's a great time because now you can take that momentum into the off season, build on it. You can get better, assuming that the injury that he sustained and the surgery that he had from it is still maybe lingering. There's some effects that might be lingering, but you have another off season to recover. You don't have to worry about playoffs. Thank God. But, right. He can just get better and work on it because I think he's at an integral part of his development now where contract aside, it's kind of shit or get off the pot, prove you're worth that contract. And if you're not, somebody will take it. Somebody will take it in a trade.
Yeah, and I just think overall, I mean, back to the original questions, like, am I pissed? No, I'm not pissed one bit. I don't get pissed when the team wins because like we've been through the gauntlet over the last 2.5 years, and it's not. And I'm not saying like in life. I'm saying like with Flyers hockey. And it would have been really pleasant to be like in the pandemic and been like, oh, this team's really great. Way to go! Like we kicked the crap out of the Bruins 7 times in one season. Like went the other direction on that one. And so I think that I take any positive that you can get out of it, and I think you also look at the draft. Yes, Connor Bedard, legend. He's a once in a generation kind of thing. I get it. It'd be nice to get it, and somebody's going to get someone great and good for them. But you also look at other top draft picks, and sometimes they don't pan out. They were mentioning today.
Nail Yakupov.
Not to mention names, but you think about it. Edmonton, they were talking on Flyers Daily today. The amount of first round picks Edmonton's had, the amount of first round picks. I mean, hasn't Buffalo had a ton too? Edmonton's certainly on a different level, but Buffalo's not making the playoffs yet again this year.
Right.
So it's just there's no guarantee. You have to think about the positive of the entire group versus like just going for one guy. And again, not to age myself, when we got Lindros, that was a huge deal. That was like the moment I became like a true fan instead of like I was probably 10 years old, and we still weren't good for like 3 years. It took us 3 years to like really make an imprint and make the playoffs and move in there. But one guy doesn't automatically flip the switch on a team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm pissed off that the Flyers are playing well. If you're telling me that you're pissed off, then I truly, and call me a fan police, but I don't think you're a real fan. Like, you want the team to do well that you root for, because then there's something to root for.
You just love being pissed off about something.
Yeah, you're a negative Nancy. You're a dick. But regardless, the opportunity to draft a guy like Connor Bedard doesn't come along very often. And when it does, and you're in a position that you're more than likely to have a chance to do that, sure, I could get why maybe some people are like, oh man, missed opportunity. But like, to be genuinely pissed off that your team is playing well, doing well, and winning games, and if you're not winning games, you're at least incredibly competitive in those games. It kind of baffles my mind, because like, I had that internal struggle of like, do I want this team to suck and tank and have a good shot at Bedard? But at the end of the day, it's a lottery. Anybody in the lottery has a chance to land him. The Flyers could still land him.
Right. A better chance to get the best case scenario in that situation is you have an 80% chance of not getting him. Like, that is the best case scenario.
Right. Like, some team is not going to get Connor Bedard that thought they had a very good shot at getting him. And in that case,
I hope it's Chicago. If Chicago gets him, I'll be really pissed.
Dude, if anybody, if Chicago gets him, like, heaven forbid, if Pittsburgh misses the playoffs and ends up in the lottery, I swear to God.
Nope. Dude, can't do that.
I will lose my ever-loving mind.
Crosby will play another 10, 15 years and make our lives even more miserable.
Yeah. He'll be the Tom Brady of the NHL and just stick around forever. And then end up on another team somewhere for 2 years. But I can't say that I'm pissed. Like, you just can't. The team's playing well, and you're seeing progress from the kids who should be showing progress. So I don't know. I have nothing nice to say about the people that are pissed, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
No.
I feel both of you. I'm just meh at this point. Like, yay, they're winning games, but they're meaningless games at this point. Like, but I do love seeing staple players produce very well. Carter Hart has been playing out of his mind lately. He's had some amazing saves over the past couple of games. Like, that's what I'm excited about, is seeing those players progress and kind of build on something for next season.
Mm-hmm.
The winning games.
It's the process.
Who said that the other day? Was it Torts that said the process, or was it Briere? Someone said it.
I don't know.
Someone said it, and everyone's like, "Oh, here we go, the process."
Everything's a process,
right? I mean, it's good that they're winning. The games that they're winning, they're exciting games too.
Right?
They're not giving up and just laying down.
I mean, that who'd we kick the crap out of? Was it Florida?
Florida, we won 6.
Florida, yep.
Like, where the hell did that come from?
Right.
And like, you never know. Like, tomorrow we could get our butts kicked, and then we're like, what the hell? But like, and then I'll be like, okay, yeah, good time to tank. I'll flip flop on that one pretty quick.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and to kind of piggyback off that, like you were talking about the young kids, like today, even being Monday, the Flyers announced they signed Emil Andrea. I'm terrible pronouncing it. Yeah, 3-year entry-level deal. I don't have the numbers in front of me. If Hoagie, you do, great. If not,
I don't
not
have those numbers. That's minimum numbers.
But you're bringing in another pretty good, puck-moving defenseman, a guy that can score from the blue line, who, maybe I should go as far as to say like a Cam York light. I mean, again, prospects aren't my forte here. I'm excited. I hope that he can get some good time down in Lehigh Valley, especially with the playoff push coming. Mm-hmm. But, I guess how often do you think or how soon is it going to be until we see him in a Flyers uniform?
I think he's going to be bouncing back and forth all of next season, depending on how our defensive core shakes out over the offseason. I think he's going to be swapping up and down. He's a small guy. He's 5'9", 176, according to Elite Prospects. Like, that's not a big dude.
That's tiny. He's got to go down. Either he's lightning fast, or he's got to go down and put a little bit of bulk on.
That's me in the NHL. Like that, I'd get my ass handed to myself. I mean, I think the biggest transition for him is learning the North American ice, because he's played in Sweden for so long. Mm-hmm. I'm giving Briere credit though. He's keeping on a PTO. for the end of the season. I think that's freaking awesome.
Right.
Because
right.
I didn't know like Briere's already pulling magic out of his hat to make this happen. All right, bye Derek.
Nope, bye Derek. I think you definitely make the comparisons of York and Timonen and guys like that, because of the size in there. But I just think in general, Provorov is probably the exception to the rule who came up very quickly. But like, you just don't see defensemen come up very quickly, And so I think that becomes sort of my hesitation, why I'm tempering my expectations that like, I'm not going to get too excited about a guy until I actually see him play in, some legit games. And you know what? The Phantoms seem like they're poised to, they're making the playoffs from what I hear. And, they're poised to at least do well. And so like, maybe he does get a look, maybe he gets acclimated a little bit quicker. But, looking at that size, I just feel like you need to get a little bit more bulk on him there.
Yeah. He's only this season, which HV 7-1 in the Swedish Hockey League, he had 26 points in 51 games. Decent. He's already played for the Phantoms in 2 games with two assists. So they're easing him into it. They're not just throwing him right to the Wolves. And
right.
I think the Phantoms have just a good mesh going on right now that they don't want to screw it up right away. with just throwing someone that's completely blind to the systems, to the ice, what have you. So
put him with Connaughton, man. He's the rookie whisperer, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, it's good. It's a good signing. We're putting some stock into a second round pick.
Right.
Let's see what we have in them, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Like,
so speaking of picks, Hoagie, talk me through who we got going in the Frozen Four here from the Flyers farm system.
Frozen Four, my favorite time of year. We've got some Boston University versus University of Minnesota matchup. I just think back to that miracle quote, like, a lot of guys from Boston University in Minnesota. That's gotta work. So we have everybody's favorite first round pick, Jay O'Brien. Remember that guy?
All right, so walk through the scenario with him, because we were talking about this before the show, and I was pretty fascinated. So what happened? So walk through the scenario with him.
Yeah, so really interesting scenario. If we do not sign him after this season, he's like a super senior at Boston University. We get compensated a second round pick this year. And I think everybody's hanging their hat on that because we don't have a second round pick this year.
Right.
So it'll be interesting. Another smaller player, 5'11", 185. He just hasn't really like blossomed into a first round selection.
Right.
To be fair.
Where does that second round lie? Where are we in the second round? Do you know? Or where would that put us in the second round?
I think it's an early second rounder, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It's kind of like could be first overall, but they slid type of compensatory pick.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, he's having not a career year, a very good year with Boston University. I think he's playing a lot of third and fourth line minutes, but he has 7 goals, 24 assists for 31 points in 38 games. So someone to look at, but nothing crazy. The numbers aren't really popping up there.
Right.
But just someone to mention, last year's, I think.
Cutter?
Nope, not Cutter. He's with Boston College.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Yep. Last year's third round pick, our favorite pick, is 69th overall. Devin Kaplan, he is suiting up with Jay O'Brien, playing on Boston University. He's having a really good year for his freshman year. 23 points in 39 games, 10 goals, 13 assists. He's been playing very well in the Frozen Four. So I think he probably has another year or two with Boston University before we ever see him.
Yeah.
But he's a decent player. I like him a lot. He's a big right winger, has a great shot. And then the Chucky 2 Trades special from Minnesota, the Bryce Brodzinski, the alliteration. He is our 2019 7th rounder. Imagine that. He's still playing. University of Minnesota. He's done very well in the tournament. He had a hat trick in the one game. Opened up scoring in the quarterfinal.
Mm-hmm.
Doing well. I can't imagine us signing him. It's his senior year.
Right.
Like, what's going to happen with this guy? But no, Frozen 4, it's exciting hockey to watch. They're down in Tampa, not this weekend, but the following Easter weekend. So tune in. It's always a good time. Boston versus Minnesota is going to be a hell of a game to watch.
Down in the sunshine. It's awesome. Well,
Yep.
I think that's good. We lost Derek, folks, because his kid was getting ready to give a nice fresh backhand as a thank you. But yeah, Hoagie, anything else, or should we call it a night?
I think it's that time. Got some games.
All
got
right.
what, 10 games left for the Flyers?
10 games, Montreal coming up, and handful of road trip opponents too. So yeah, Hoagie, you want to tell them where you're at?
Pod Street Hose on the Twitter app. We'll skip the dad joke this week for your sake.
Pod Street Casey, you got Pod Street Gove
and Pod Street Bob.
Pod Street Bob, and we're all at Pod Street Bullies. You can find our affiliates at Flyers High and Wide, 5 Minute Major. What's our other one? Do you remember? I can't remember.
I think the Hockey Focus.
The Hockey Focus. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, doing great stuff over there. So, thank you guys for joining us, and we will catch you all next week.